The California High-Speed Rail Authority, formed to build a high-speed rail system linking California's major cities, estimates the cost to be about $45 billion, with funds expected to come from government and private sources.
Lawsuit against President Trump after his administration withheld billions of dollars in funding for that project.
Somewhere in California's Central Valley, there's a concrete viaduct. It stretches across fields and highways. Elevated, engineered, impressive looking, and it goes nowhere. In 2008, California voters approved a $9.95 billion bond. They were promised a high-speed rail system connecting San Francisco to Los Angeles. The total cost? $33 billion. Completion? 2020. 17 years later, not a single mile of high-speed track has been laid. The projected cost? $128 billion. And climbing. This is the story of how California built the most expensive train to nowhere in American history. To understand how this happened, you have to go back to 2008. Gas prices were surging. California's highways were choking on traffic. The state's population was projected to hit 50 million, and a group of planners had a vision. High-speed rail, a bullet train connecting San Francisco to Los Angeles in under 3 hours. Proposition 1. A promised something revolutionary. A modern transportation system rivaling Europe and Japan. Politicians lined up to support it. Environmental groups endorsed it. The editorial boards were enthusiastic. The promises were specific. $33 billion total. Private investors would cover most of it. Operational by 2020. No ongoing taxpayer subsidies. On November 4th, 2008, California voters said yes. 52% approved the bond. They had no idea what they had actually agreed to. But here's what the voters weren't told. When Prop 1A went to the ballot, no environmental work had been done. No engineering studies. No detailed design. As the project's own CEO later admitted, that $33 billion estimate was made, quote, before any work was done. It was, in his words, an estimate based on paper. The number that sold the project to voters was essentially a guess. What happened next was a slow-motion disaster. By 2010, the first real engineering studies came in. The cost estimate jumped to $43 billion. 2012? $68 billion. Remember, voters were told $33 billion. We're now at double that. And construction hadn't even started. The route kept changing. The timeline kept slipping. In 2015, they finally broke ground. Not in San Francisco or Los Angeles, but in the middle of the Central Valley. Fresno, Madera. Places most Californians couldn't find on a map. The official reason? It was cheaper to build there. Fewer obstacles. A way to show progress. The real reason? They had to start somewhere. Anywhere. Just to prove the project was real. The problems multiplied. Land acquisition lawsuits, environmental challenges, contractor disputes. The California High-Speed Rail Authority was spending $1.8 million every single day. And the track being built? 0 high-speed miles. They were building viaducts, overpasses, the civil infrastructure that would eventually support a train. But the actual high-speed rail system? The electric lines? The trains? The stations? Nowhere close. In 2019, newly elected Governor Gavin Newsom stood before the California legislature. And he did something politicians rarely do. He admitted the truth. Quote, "Let's be real. The current project, as planned, would cost too much and take too long. There's been too little oversight and not enough transparency." The statement made national news. Newsom announced the state would focus on a smaller segment. Merced to Bakersfield. 171 miles through the Central Valley. Not San Francisco to Los Angeles. Just the middle part. A train connecting two cities that most Americans have never heard of. Critics immediately called it the train to nowhere. But here's what makes this worse. Even that scaled-back segment, kept getting more expensive. In 2019, when Newsom announced the change, the Merced-Bakersfield segment was estimated at 16 to 18 billion. By 2024, 35 billion. Just for that one segment. Remember, the entire system from San Francisco to Los Angeles was supposed to cost 33 billion. Now a fraction of the route costs more than the whole thing was supposed to. And still, no track. For years, federal money kept the project alive. The Obama administration awarded California $3.5 billion in stimulus funds back in 2010. The Biden administration added another $3.1 billion through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. In total, California received nearly $7 billion in federal support. But federal money comes with federal oversight and federal deadlines. The California High-Speed Rail Authority was supposed to select a train vendor by December 2024. They missed it. The procurement process had to be completely restarted. In early 2025, the Federal Railroad Administration conducted a compliance review. The report was over 300 pages long, 9 major findings, a $7 billion funding gap, no credible plan to secure additional funds, missed deadlines, inadequate risk management, overrepresented ridership projections. The conclusion was devastating. The California High-Speed Rail Authority could not meet its obligations. In July 2025, the federal government pulled the plug. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy terminated approximately $4 billion in unspent federal grants. Quote, "After 16 years and roughly $15 billion spent, not one high-speed track has been laid." He noted the $135 billion projected cost could buy every San Francisco and Los Angeles resident nearly 200 round-trip flights between the cities. California filed a lawsuit, then quietly dropped it in December. The money was gone. No legal mechanism to recover it. So where does that leave us? As of early 2026, California has spent over $15 billion. Approximately 2,000 feet of track has been installed. Not 2,000 miles. 2,000 feet. Less than half a mile. That works out to roughly $7.5 million per foot of track. Yes, there are viaducts, overpasses, civil infrastructure, but no electrification, no trains, no stations ready for passengers. The latest business plan pushes revenue service to 2033 for just the Merced-Bakersfield segment. The full San Francisco to Los Angeles route? Maybe 2040, maybe later, maybe never. And the money. The authority admits it needs another $100 billion to complete Phase 1. California's general fund is already strained. The state faced a $38 billion deficit in 2024. Those private investors who were supposed to fund most of this? They never showed up, not in 2008. Not now. Why would they? The project has never been financially viable. The authority's own projections show the Merced-Bakersfield segment would require permanent taxpayer subsidies just to operate, a train that costs more to run than it earns. Connecting cities few people want to travel between. How did California get here? Some blame politics. The project became a partisan battleground. Others blame contractors who prioritized billing over building. Environmental reviews took years. Lawsuits added more years. Spain built its entire high-speed network for less than California's current estimate. China builds high-speed rail at a fraction of the cost per mile. But America is exceptional. Exceptionally expensive. Layer upon layer of environmental review, prevailing wage requirements, Buy America provisions, litigation at every step, property rights challenges, union negotiations, and politicians who kept making promises without asking whether those promises were achievable. The voters of 2008 were sold a dream. What they got was a lesson in how government megaprojects fail, how estimates become fantasies, how accountability evaporates when the timeline stretches across decades and administrations. The California high-speed rail project isn't dead, not officially. Billions more will be spent. Concrete will be poured. Reports will be filed. But the train that was supposed to transform California? The bullet train from San Francisco to Los Angeles in under 3 hours? That train may never come. Infrastructure projects don't have to end this way. We've covered successful rail projects. We've covered spectacular failures if you want to understand how transportation actually works and how it sometimes doesn't. Hit subscribe. Ring the notification bell so you don't miss the next deep dive. And let me know in the comments. Should California keep building or cut their losses? I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.